whoa, whoa, like this. And I'm just like, oh crap. We were fixing up a Piper Aztec that has been sitting for at least 8 years. It had been taken apart. One engine had been rebuilt. It was sitting outside part of that time. It was painted, so all the control surfaces were off of it. Yeah, basically as bad as it could get as far as, and there's like 10 different mechanics working on it, so you have no idea who was doing what and what they did and where they stopped and where they started or how they did the work. It's a very, very bad situation as far as what could possibly go wrong. And I knew that, and we had spent, 3 months straight just working on the airplane to get it to where we can ferry it, like 700 miles or something like that, all the way from the middle of Alabama down to Florida where I'm at. We took out about a gallon of water out of one of the fuel tanks. And water, fuel contamination is the number one thing around why airplanes go down. And the second one is a brand new built engine. Well, guess what? I had both of those things happening on the first flight. And after an airplane sits for a while is also the most dangerous flight. So you add in 8 years of sitting. It was the first time this thing has moved under its own power in 8 years. We had a bunch of water in the fuel tank. We had a brand new engine on one side that's untested. So, I thought, what could go wrong? Let's fill the gas tanks up, take off and send it south for a 3-hour tour. I heard of another thing that ended not so well on a 3-hour tour. That was an old person Gilligan's Island joke if you're there. Okay. I mean, obviously I'm sitting here to tell the story, so it didn't end too bad. I got up, circled up, and the first thing I noticed was the controls were pulling hard to the right. And in order to keep it straight, I had to use both hands on the yoke in order to keep the airplane flying straight. And I thought, okay, that's not great, but it's not the end of the world. It's not a safety of flight issue. It's more of it's not dialed in to fly straight and true. Kind of like your alignment on a car, right? So you can still drive it, but it might pull to one side, might wear the tires out, stuff like that. Okay, so we circled the airport for 30 minutes, and then I said, all right, everything seems to be working good. Pointed the nose south, and about 9 minutes into the flight, and this thing's flying really fast, actually. It's a lot faster than I thought it was going to be going. It starts going, whoa, 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 like this, and I'm just like, oh, crap. So I'm looking at airports below me where I'm going to be landing. The first thing, my training kicked in, so the first thing is to flip the fuel pumps on, change one tank at a time. And I knew I was like, there's more water in that fuel tank. We didn't get it all, because we flushed it out and everything, but you can never get all of it out for a while. So I immediately switched the fuel tank on that side and wait a few seconds, wait a few minutes. Whoa, it's still going. I'm like, okay, switch the other fuel tank over there. And whoa, and it started to get a little bit smoother and a little bit smoother. So okay, whew. Well, that was good, but it also was bad because the fuel tank I switched to, I had to go back to the other tank in order to make it all the way because it's a 3-hour flight all the way down there. So it's a very, very long trip. And the fuel tank didn't have enough fuel in that one tank. So I knew I was going to have to switch back to that other tank. So then I flew for, hour and a half, 2 hours, no problem, emptied those tanks out. And I'm like, okay, here we go. We got to switch back to the known tank that I know was giving me some issues. So I found an airport right below me, and I was at 7,500 feet, and I was like, okay, I'm going to circle the airport and switch the tanks, and if it gives me any issues, pulling it down, and we're just going to land here. So I go up, flip the fuel pumps on, switch to my good tank on this side that I knew was good. And in a twin, you can do a lot of things. Like I can take fuel and move it from that side to this side and feed that engine and all kinds of fun things. So I switched to that tank and we're flying and everything's still going. I'm like, all right, so far so good. I switched to that tank that I knew had a lot of water in it. Click, and I'm just waiting and waiting and waiting. And I was like, all right, nothing. It's still good, still good. And then by that time, I had passed the airport, so I was like, okay, I guess we're dedicated. And now I'm over the swamps of Florida, so if it does go down, the plane doesn't glide far enough to be able to make it to another airport. So I was like, all right, it was acting good for this 5 minutes. Let's see how the next 5 minutes go. And I was like, okay, it made it 5 minutes. Let's see where the next airport is. And it was the most stressful 3 hours of my entire life. But I'm happy to say we made it all the way to Florida. Everything, the gears came down, we landed, we got it parked, and then I went and found the biggest Mountain Dew that a store sold, and I think that was the first time I breathed in 3 hours, was once I landed and I had the airplane stopped. That was far and away the most stressful flight I've ever experienced. It was stressful enough to where I bought a crash test dummy suit. And I was like, all right, because this is what I was, right? And I knew that. I'm like, okay, apparently this is my crash test dummy moment. So here we go, boys. Let's just send it and let's see what happens. And thankfully on this one, we were able to make it all the way. So I don't want to do that too often because, yeah, I was totally dark-haired before that flight. And now you see what happened. So